Hi, it's Kirk Dixon. I'm here with Karl Mecklenburg. We're continuing an amazing day, the 21st P&E Player Networking event, and a bit of a nuance this year because of COVID-19. Like so many, we've had to pivot, we've had to morph, we've had to go remote. Folks are telecommuting, but the content is just as great, just as relevant. And Karl, we are just delighted that you're here to share a bit of your story with us.
Well, I
Welcome.
appreciate it, Kurt. Yeah. I was not the golden boy. I was the JV player as a junior in high school. As a
So,
senior.
well,
Yeah.
let's start there. Tell us a bit of your story, your background, and kind of bring us up to speed.
Yeah. So I was, like I said, a JV player as a junior in high school. As a senior, I made the varsity team and played both ways, was all state as a tight end and the defensive end. And got recruited by a little Division II school, Augustana College in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Ended up going there on a 1/3 scholarship, which after 2 years they took away. So then I left and I walked on at the University of Minnesota. Was ineligible to play, so basically I was a scout player for a year. Fortunately, it was Tony Dungy was in charge of the scout players at that point, so I got to learn from Tony. Got Made the team, got a scholarship, ended up getting drafted in the 12th round. They don't have 12 rounds anymore, but I was the 310th pick of the draft, 20 guys away from Mr. Irrelevant. That's the last.
Right.
And end up playing 12 years with the Broncos, 6 Pro Bowls, 3 Super Bowls. Had a blast and loved football all along. To me, success is overcoming obstacles on the way to your dreams. That's what it is. If you're not running into obstacles, you're not pushing hard enough. Yes, there'll be naysayers, there'll be doubters, but if you believe in yourself and you work hard enough, anything's possible.
Karl, and you do a lot of professional speaking today, and you talk to groups and audiences. Is that a key theme in your talks?
Yes. I talk about universal keys to success. I talk about teamwork, with leadership being the ultimate expression of teamwork. Courage, the courage to try new things, the courage to be decisive. Dedication, which I describe as hard work, constant learning, refusing to quit. Desire, that's the dream, the passion, the mission. Honesty and forgiveness with yourself and self-evaluation with others. And finally, goal setting, reasonable, short-term, specific steps that take you to those desires, those passions, those missions. So that's kind of the basis of most of my talks. Everything's personalized and tailored for the organization and their challenges and their industry's challenges. But yeah, it's all stuff I learned in football. It's amazing. I've been doing that for 15 years as a professional speaker. And the need and the crying out for understanding teamwork, understanding leadership, understanding dedication, which anybody who goes through 2 days understands dedication. So to me, that's what I've been doing since I retired from pro football.
Karl, when we look back, and I'm much older than you, but when I look back and folks read a resume or a vita or a speaker's bio, and of course, good marketing, we highlight the accomplishments, the wins, and we name drop, brands, individuals, accomplishments, awards. It's all good, but take me back to one or two examples when you were in junior college, or you lost your scholarship, or you had to, you were a late draft pick. I mean, there's so much that has happened between that obstacle and now. It can read like a storybook, right?
Yeah.
But for those who are listening, especially our young folks who might be facing a particular difficulty, outside noise, or a recent failure, or maybe they're shooting for the stars because they're told by someone they believe that they can do that, but they have no idea how. Take us back to when, and because what I'm looking for is maybe express the emotions of fear or doubt or anxiety. Break it down for us if you don't mind.
Yeah. The first time it ever occurred to me that I wasn't going to play football anymore, I was a junior in high school. My dad had asked me to go goose hunting with him out in North Dakota. He did never ask me to go do stuff like that with him. I was so excited. The JV game was Thursday night, and we were leaving on Friday, and it snowed and messed up the field, and they moved the JV game to Saturday, and I was going hunting with my dad, and coach was really angry at me, and he assigned me an almost impossible task of running 100 of these 45-degree angle hills behind the high school, and basically was trying to get me to quit.
Right.
And it was the first time it ever occurred to me I wasn't going to play football. But I did it. I ran, I ran 15 of them a day over and over after practice, and got it done. But it was at that point that I said, you know what? I love this sport, and until someone drags me away from it, I'm going to do everything I can to be successful at it. So that was really the start. I grew 3 inches and 40 pounds my first year of college. That helped.
Wow.
Yeah. All of a sudden, I got better. I don't know what happened at Augustana. My dad was a doctor, and after my second year there, I led the team in sacks. I played every down on defense. The coach had promised me a full scholarship if I contributed. So I'm going into that debriefing session they have at after every season, where you go in and sit down with the coach, and they talk about what happened last year and what to expect next year. And he sits me down in the office, and I'm expecting he's gonna give me that scholarship we talked about in my family's living room. I go in there, and the first thing out of his mouth is, "Karl, we know your dad's a doctor. He can afford this school. We're going to take away your scholarship."
Oh my.
And yeah, so that was another turning point. I had grown up in Minnesota watching the Minnesota Gophers. My dad used to bring me to the games. I wanted to play there. If I was going to play for nothing, I was going to go play there. So I left, and I walked down at the University of Minnesota, and earned a scholarship there. And it was a struggle and a fight, and it's always a struggle and a fight. Every year it's a struggle.
If you don't mind me interrupting, I love this part of your story where it starts to feel like you're not the golden child, so to speak, coming in highly recruited, highly touted, and not to say that it's easy for everyone. Everyone has to earn their spot, as you know, one sprint at a time, one lift at a time, et cetera. But sure, some are highly recruited. And in today's world, we have media that even and sophisticated recruiting systems that even rank high school players, right, and college players.
Look, I saw it over and over and over in the NFL, where tremendously gifted, unbelievably gifted individuals that come to training camp, and they'd always been the best player on their team, and never been pushed, never been challenged, and they get to the NFL, and I don't care how good you are, I don't care what you are going to be pushed, and you're going to be challenged. And some of them didn't make it. I mean, it happens every year. First round draft picks, 3-star, 5-star, whatever they call them, all the way up, and they fall flat in the pros. And it's not talent. Each step of the way in football becomes more and more about decisiveness, which to me was why I was a good player, and about the mental side of the game. In high school, it's a physical game. You're not changing your game plan. I mean, we had 120 different defenses, all with adjustments off of them that changed week to week in the pros. And if you didn't know what to do, they had no use for you. They'd find somebody else. So it's kind of a stepping stone thing, and you're going to run into obstacles over and over and over again. But that's what everybody who's successful does. They run into obstacles.
We had one of our earlier guests is in sports analytics. It's a lot of metrics, a lot of numbers. And years ago, I can remember when Guy Troop was at the league. He had come to Reebok. I was at Reebok at the time, and gave a presentation of why we should hire NFL players in the off season to give them some job shadowing and mentoring and experiences for the inevitable transition. I couldn't believe the statistics at the time. I'm sure there are much more today, but at the time he said there were 1 million kids that played high school football. 13% got a chance to play D1 or D2, 130,000. And of those, roughly 360 get a shot to go to the NFL.
Right.
That's staggering when you think of it. It's 1/10 of 1%. So when people say it's very difficult to get there. And so to your point, what from your experience, what do you, talent is a part of it. You do have to run, you do have to catch, etc. But what,
There's a bottom line of talent. There's you got to be so big, you got to be so fast, you got to be able to, you got to have some toughness so you can take a hit and go take another hit. but from my standpoint, each step of the way is more and more of a mental game. Every step of the way, in high school, if you're a good player, the other team will maybe have 2 or 3 good players, and you're not playing against good players all the time. In college, D1 college, you're playing against good players all the time. Elite players, in the Big Ten, there's enough of them, but not everybody is. And then when you get to the pros, everybody's great.
yes.
Everybody's great. And the difference between the guys that are able to be successful for a long time, because everybody's going to get hurt. Everyone's athletic ability, once you get to pro level, starts going down. As soon as they get there, athletically, it starts going down because you're going to get hurt. You can't play 16 games in a full schedule without getting nicked up. So the difference is mental. The difference is how you prepare and how you allow yourself to be decisive. For me, I found out early on in my career, if you take the first step in the right direction before anybody else does, all the angles change in your favor. The tight end can't pin you in, the guard can't cut you off, the fullback can't keep you from getting to the line. Everything changes. And the only way you can do that is through preparation, going into each situation, allowing yourself to trust your training and go when it's time to go. Not going is always wrong. My son was at Kent Denver here in Denver. It's a small private school that he played in the jazz band. He was the editor of the newspaper. He was he did everything right. He was playing football too, and that was the kids I had, and they were all brilliant kids. But brilliant doesn't necessarily work on the field if you're looking at too many different choices. You've got to go in and say, I understand what I'm supposed to do, and as soon as you see that thing, go. And that to me was the difference for me. Pros is that decisiveness.
What in your professional speaking, what do you find about your story and about your experiences that tends to be a hot topic or very popular right now?
Yeah, the thing that I think differentiates me from a lot of people who are out speaking is that I talk about honesty and forgiveness. Honesty and forgiveness is so vital in any athlete's pursuit, and in any business person's pursuit, in any family member's pursuit. Being honest with yourself and saying, yeah, you know what, this is right. I'm going to repeat that. This is wrong. I'm going to set some goals and fix that. That sports mentality, that honesty and forgiveness piece is huge, and really the one thing that every time I speak to a group, that they will come back at least with that, and they'll come back with some other stuff too, and it's different from group to group, but always that honesty and forgiveness piece is something, I hadn't thought of that.
It's excellent, because when I boil down, I have 2 daughters, and when I think of raising them, one of the talks that I said when they were young, I said when they were in high school, I said, and I continue to repeat now in their 20s, is words matter. Words are important. Don't make promises you can't keep, and when you can't keep a promise, it's okay, but communicate, talk about the breakdown, talk about what you're going to do to fix it, but don't treat promises or words as idle. And that has to do with ourselves too. Don't tell yourself things that that you don't intend to follow up on or fix.
Right. The hard thing, you'll sit in the meeting room with all the other linebackers and the coaches going over a specific play, and he'll go, hey, Mecklenburg, it's a 2-deep zone. The tight end's running wide open down the middle. That's your guy. You've got to cover him. And you're right. You're in the room, you've seen the video, he's right, but your natural tendency as a human being is to think that's not my fault. It's not my fault. The defensive end should have jammed him so he couldn't get off the line so fast. The outside linebacker should have squeezed him into me so he's easier for me to cover. The strong safety's supposed to help me when he goes deep on a cover 2. What's he doing? Right? But what should I say? Yeah, that's my guy. That's
right.
my guy, and I'll get him next time. And then
Right.
every time I see that formation from the next week, I'm going to say, okay, this is the formation they're running the seam route with the tight end, and I gotta run with them. I mean, and I set the goal that I'm going to do that, and it's a reasonable, short-term, specific thing, and I lock on that guy, and I'm ready to go. But if I say it's not my fault, then it's going to happen again and again and again.
Yes, 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 yes. I love the quote, no blame, no excuses, do something.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. That's a sports mentality.
What, so obviously work ethic, you
Yeah.
had it. You had to have it, right? I mean, everybody does, but for in your, again, your story of overcoming obstacles and having doors closed and being told no and having noise around you, how much of it did you just simply work harder than others, and how important is that versus working smarter?
Myself. I believed in myself. I always did. And I got that from my parents, and I got that from my grandparents, I grew up with both of my grandfathers worked in the stockyards in South St. Paul, Minnesota. My dad was a physician, like I said. He earned he was able to go to medical school by going in the Army, and they paid for his medical school. My mom got involved later on in life with the anti-abortion movement. Then she became Deputy Secretary of Health and Human Services in the Reagan administration. Just unbelievable. I mean, coming from where they came from and rising and fighting and struggling and doing the things they had to do to be successful. I saw that. And I knew there were challenges along the way. So I believed in myself from day one. But yeah, it's hard when someone says you don't belong here. It's
Mm-hmm.
when you know you're a better player than the guy in front of you, but you got to get a chance to prove it.
We hear a lot about transferable skills. Um, it gets thrown around a lot. It's been thrown around for decades, right? Sports is a microcosm of society, and what share a little bit about your experience of that for our young audience,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
one of my arguments has always been is that if you know there are transferable skills, but again, being older and having experience, 10, 20, 30 years of work experience, well, we get it. But someone who doesn't have the benefit of that work experience, which is ahead of them, they in a sense don't know what they don't know. Can
Right.
you?
Yeah, well, there's so much value in understanding teamwork and leadership out there. I get hired about 40 times a year to go talk to associations and businesses about what you as a football player already know. They're dying for that. They want people to come into a team situation. So much of what leads up to your working life is outside of the team. You're an individual in school, and as far as your grades go, you're an individual in so many different ways in today's society. But then all of a sudden you're thrown into this team situation, and as an athlete, you know how to handle that, and that's invaluable. They like I said, they hired me. They paid me a lot of money to come and just tell them stories about teamwork. It's a vital thing.
That doesn't. I haven't thought about this for quite a while, but you're right. I can remember at Reebok, we went through a phase where we were growing from a fitness brand to an on-the-field sports brand, and we got away from hiring athletes that were swimmers and runners and wrestlers, individual sports. We wanted athletes for all the reasons that we're talking about, but in the team environment, we wanted folks who actually played team sports more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a very valuable thing. Then you know how to win and lose. A lot of people have a real hard time with winning and losing. I don't care where you grew up. You lost some games. And what do? Well, you try to figure out what you did wrong. You set some goals and fix it, and you fight again another day. You don't give up. You don't turn tail. You work harder, and that's something that you learn as an athlete.
One of the things that I've also found is that many folks who played on the football field in particular, who are so used to that you make a mistake, you come off the field, does the coach wait to the end of the game to point out in the first quarter? you came off the line slow or whatever. No, they grab you by your face mask. Feedback is immediate,
Right.
specific, not personal. It's intended so you don't do it the next time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you understand the coach wants you to do what well. That's his whole job. You know, he's in
Carl, we're out of time, but this has been amazing. How does someone find you and hire you to
Well,
come talk about your
yeah.
amazing journey?
Well, I
And
appreciate that. Yeah, you can go to karlmecklenburg.com. Carl's with a K. Mecklenburg is Burg. You can misspell it lots of ways and still find it. That's where I'm at. It's I love speaking. But probably the thing I miss most from football is the adrenaline. That's the hard thing to replicate. But you get up in front of a group of 1,000 people and try to remember what you meant to say, and that adrenaline comes right back. So
right.
so yeah, I love speaking in the same way I love football. Most people have a hard time finding one profession that they love in their lifetime.
I love your story, and I appreciate you being willing to peel back the curtain, so to speak, and share, uh, the fall downs, the trip ups, the missteps on your way. Because I think, like I say, it's a topic today in the world we live in, and I think social media has multiplied and accentuated that. I don't need the experts to tell us that. It's already hard in puberty. It's already hard when you're young,
Sure.
figuring it out and accomplishing goals. But when it's magnified and shared, it can be especially hard. So it's great to continue to hear from folks who made it and continue to make it, and say it wasn't easy.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm also, if anybody's interested, I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn, and where any social media thing, you can find me there too. So that's another route too.
Carl,
Appreciate
thanks so much for joining us at P&E.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right.